Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. We
We're
back.
back.
That's my record. It's been a minute, but we got something in store for you tonight. We got some
Yeah.
good content. So buckle up,
Yes.
get you some popcorn, charge your phone,
Yes.
share it to your screen. What do they call it? Screen share it to
Yeah.
your cast it to your TV.
Like and subscribe to
Well, that's
our
right.
page.
Let's get to it. So it's been about a week, two
It's been a
weeks.
week. Last week we had a speaking engagement, so we weren't
Yo,
able to record, but we're back.
shout out to those of you who came and just
Hmm.
supported, and those of you who
Absolutely.
schedule wouldn't allow. We got another one coming up. So when we come to a city near you,
That's right.
pull up. We on the road. We taking it on tour. So we are going to talk tonight about a subject we're going to call "What Works in Your House."
Yes.
Now, I'm sure those of you who have watched have heard the phrase "What happens in this house
Stays in this
stays in
house,
this house."
which
Now,
is toxic.
I'm just gonna jump on it.
Just so you know.
On clickbait.
Yeah, definitely it's toxic.
So, from the perspective of not from a trauma base,
Right.
but from a perspective tonight of learned behavior
Right.
and normalized behavior,
Hmm.
even if everyone kept their mouth closed about what happens in this house, it
Right.
still doesn't stay in this house because what is normal, what is normalized in the household that I grew up in,
Hmm.
I take it with me
Yeah.
to the household now that we built together.
Right.
And what was normalized in the household that you were raised in.
Right. I brought
You,
it with me.
all right.
Hmm.
So even though some households and some parents and some guardians and were told that
Yeah.
whatever happens in this house,
Right.
it's still not true because your household
Uh-huh.
came to our apartment.
Right.
My household
Yeah.
came to our
That's
apartment.
right.
And
And then
Harpo beat on Sophia.
we had to sort through all of what we brought and see what we wanted to keep and what needed to be abandoned.
Now we say we've had the conversations. We say that those of us who are married, we said, oh, we talked about it. We had couples counseling.
We didn't.
My
We
t-
was advised to, but we didn't.
we didn't. And what we thought we did, it wasn't in
Right.
depth because
Yeah. It was real top level conversations. It wasn't we wasn't digging deep like we should have.
it's like how do you plan or how do you educate yourself on having a child when you've never had one? You just got to jump in. How
Hmm.
you teach somebody how to swim and they ain't in water?
Right.
You got to throw that behind in that water. You got to get wet.
Especially because we both came out of single parent households.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Um,
So.
my brother said the other day, he was kind of just going back over our story. We were
Hmm.
on a road trip and he said to me, he said, you and Brittany have mastered the three top subjects that really are the cause or the leading cause for the failure of romantic relationships.
Yeah.
And I said, dang, marriage, sex,
Hmm.
and communication. The new generation say comprehension. It all is in the same family. And I thought about it. We really have had storm seasons
Yeah.
where the flavor of the day was communication,
Hmm.
the flavor of the day was sex,
Hmm.
or the flavor of the day was money or the lack thereof.
Right.
So I still like you. You
I
still
still
like
like you
me?
too.
Man, we
You
were
still my friend.
God bless you.
Hmm. You
You
my
my
only lover
Facebook.
friend. That's
Yeah.
what they used to say
And
back in the day.
everybody listen. And I used to think that, everybody don't feel that way about the
That's
person that
true.
they're with. So we don't have all the answers, but such as we have,
Okay.
we give unto you.
That's right. We have come to share what we do
Yeah,
know.
so just make sure when you hear these bullet points that we list tonight,
Hmm.
take whichever one you want to take,
Yeah.
have a conversation. I don't know about you, but I met somebody today
Hmm.
or saw someone who I knew at the restaurant, and he gave his take on the spaghetti. Is it a meal or is it a side? He was like, man, my wife said it's a side. I say it's a meal.
It's a meal.
But anyway,
I stand 10 toes on that. It's a meal.
So we can't tell who watches the YouTube page
Right.
because it doesn't show
Yeah.
only subscribers.
Right.
So
Like and subscribe.
yeah. So just shout out to everybody who's shared, who's laughed with us, who has taken conversations that we've
Yeah.
started on this vlog
Yeah.
and implemented them in your relationship or
Yeah.
your relationship to be. That's the whole point. We
Yeah.
just want to get a dialogue started and hopefully add some wisdom along the way and
Yeah.
share some stuff that we've been through, experience, failures,
And successes.
if you had to write a book
Ooh. Okay.
on your upbringing until the time you got married, just until the time you got married.
You made me start itching, baby.
I'm sorry, I saw
What?
you itching. Your nerves. What would you call it?
The survival of Brittany.
The survival of. Would you get anybody who's famous to play your character?
No.
Just you? You playing your own?
Yeah, nobody can play
Can't
it
nobody
like
can
me.
tell like.
Because
Can't
they
nobody
didn't
sing like Eddie
experience
Kane.
it. Nobody experienced it like I did. So.
If you had to pick an album,
Ooh.
a music album,
A music album.
whose album would culminate? I know, put you on the spot.
Until I Married You.
Yeah.
It would. You know what? I don't know.
Come on, please. Come on. We want to.
I feel like it would be like a Mary J. Blige album because she went through so much stuff.
She did.
Yeah.
The heartbreak music. That's some good
Pain
music.
and suffering. Okay, it's gonna be the soundtrack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not gonna cry one more tear.
Okay.
All right, that's a good one. The gospel version too. I'm not gonna cry one more tear is Mary's version. I cried my last tear yesterday.
You're so churchy. You are so churchy. You can't help it.
So let's get into it.
Okay.
What works in your house might not work
in the house you're trying to build. I'm just saying.
Can you say it again? Because I messed it up.
What worked in the household that you grew up in may not work in the house that you're trying to build.
So what do you do with that when you find out, before we get into the points, when you found out that what was taught to you growing up didn't fit, what were you faced with?
I think the first thing was acknowledging how toxic my upbringing was.
You ain't got to tell. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, because most of us, just in our humanity, we don't want to acknowledge that we're a functional adult, but we were like steeped and brewed in toxicity. And unfortunately, because of that, we still carry some of those traits and they're manifesting in our relationships now. Just think about it. You break up with somebody. Well, I broke up with him because he did this and this. No one ever starts a conversation and says, well, we broke up because I was raggedy and I did A, B, and C. Everybody always likes to point the finger. So the first step is acknowledging it like, oh, I did that. I broke that in our relationship. Now I got to look at where does that come from? How am I going to help repair that, help heal the area that I've injured in you? And I think that we think by acknowledging our wrongdoing, we let the other person off the hook, but really it just opens up the conversation for vulnerability. Because if I'm willing to own my piece, then it frees them up to own their piece. And then we can actually get somewhere.
To that point, I also think that and it's common and it has to come up.
Yeah.
And if it's negative, the only way that I can think in this moment sitting in this kitchen that it can come up is a negative situation. I can't think of how something that is negative surfaces unless something happens that shows that. I'm thinking about the scripture that evil rooted bit in the spring up in trouble. Okay, anyway, so I think that when we just move through life haphazardly and just living off of passion and just trying to make it the best way we know how, and these things come up, we have to realize that it is an opportunity for us to discover, for us to understand how deep that is based on how passionately we respond to it.
Exactly.
And to be able to trace it back to the first time we felt it, the first time we experienced it, so we can find out where we need to receive healing in that area.
Yeah.
So,
but it can, I mean, acknowledging something negative that you learned doesn't make you a bad person. It's just what you were taught. So it's like once you're illuminated, okay, let's do something about it.
Let's do something.
Unless you want to replicate what you grew up in, which most of us don't. I know I don't. You got to do something about it.
There's no need of going through that woman or that man's phone
Mhm.
if you ain't prepared to do something. Now,
What
if
you
you
said?
going through, I don't know why this just came up in my heart. If you going through that phone and you're not prepared to make a decision
You
based on
better
what
be
you saw,
standing on business, baby. If not, leave the phone alone. If
Just
you
leave-
know
just
you're
put it
not
down.
going nowhere, it don't matter.
Erica said, I can make you put your phone down.
Oh, she did.
Unless she wasn't talking about that content. I just stole it and made it my own for the veil just below. So let's deal with it. Your parents' system versus their parents' system, or the lack thereof, or the foster care system. Whatever system I grew up in is probably not identical to the same system that you grew up in.
Oh, absolutely not. Very different.
And we both Black.
Right. We both had single parents.
Her high school principal was Mr. Clark. My high school principal was Mr. Beldy.
He really said that to try to throw shade, but it's okay. No, you're not innocent. You're not innocent. You ain't innocent.
Let me see if I can do another.
That's why he's smiling like that. You know he ain't innocent.
Okay, I ain't gonna give no more. So yeah, we come from completely different backgrounds. Now, what's cold-blooded about it is that the yin need the yang.
That's right.
So when we got to the place in our relationship when I was like, I can't stand you, and you talk with your hands and you loud, the rebuttal to that argument was that you wasn't saying nothing about it when you was when you was rubbing on all these cheeks and when you was loving it.
Trying to do what you was
so
trying to do.
Something about it that you like. I like a little toxicity, and I like a little.
It's something about it he loves.
I like it.
You see, he's still with it.
I like that spice. Now listen, I don't like all that back talk and all that lip.
He said, "I want to choose my season."
Yeah, come on now.
How it works. That's why you don't
But there are other arenas that it work for my favor.
Okay.
Sooner or later. Okay, we gotta get to it's getting hot in here. So,
tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
What you want to know?
Well, just so we can give the contrast so they can see.
Oh, context. So I was raised a single parent household, strong mother, independent. You gonna say like independent in the fact that she made her own money, she made her own decisions, and the man that she married was he just wasn't as strong as she was, and so she really just had a strong strength. And I think that strength that she had intimidated my father and really caused a resentment in their marriage that ended their relationship in divorce. And so I was able to kind of go and move as I pleased growing up, which really had positives, but also had negatives. As I'm looking back as an adult male now, some of those liberties that I had did not serve me well. I grew up in church, so I played drums from the time that I could have mobilization in my body. And so I was raised in church. My mother directed the choir. She made good money, and we just thugged it out.
They ain't thug nothing out. He's living a good suburban life. Don't let him lie to you.
I mean, not thugged it out. I mean, just got through it. So a lot of my relationships, I really gave quality love and gave that open spot that was in my heart that I was reserved for the love of my father. I really gave that love and that hole in my heart toward some of the early relationships that I was in as a young man. And I need to say this about this point. Glad you brought it up. Television, I'm trying to think, there weren't a lot of couples.
TV raised him. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Matters. Come on.
Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World.
Saved by the Bell.
Full House.
Martin.
Yes. He was pulling life lessons from these TV shows.
Cosby's. Come on, y'all. I know you have me right here.
None of them are a accurate reality of the world we live in.
You could have told me.
But he did come to our marriage trying to implement some of those things.
And they did not work. What happened was the camera goes off. So I was going to say something right before you said that.
Sorry.
But anyway, so yeah, when I got with her, TV really did have a large influence on, because I did not see a lot of successful marriages
Right.
up close. The ones that I did, I don't want to call their names or shout them out. They really modeled to me that it can work, but predominantly I either saw no example, predominantly no example,
Right.
and then number two, bad example. So I really had none to look at versus the one or the two that I saw that I can remember off the top of my head in my formative years. So it really was a disappointment to me when I found out that you wasn't on the same program that I was on, even though I didn't tell you what my program, I just assumed that marriage in Kansas is the same as marriage in Oklahoma. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, when we say marriage, we all talking about the same thing. No, the hell we are not. Your version, your household, my household, every version of marriage is different.
Yeah.
It is not, I mean, it's no different. Every soul food restaurant is different. Somebody's doing their own thing in the back and putting their own. So it's not McDonald's. It's not ran like a corporation.
Right.
Everybody can do their own thing, which is the beautiful. It's not a
different.
franchise. This is a mom and pop. I'm gonna take my cut off the top, and I'm gonna tell you that the Lord told me to take care of me first. So anyway, we just running this. You just running this by the city. Okay. This is a sticker.
Oh, you're wild.
I'm sorry. So yeah, there needs to be rules and regulations, and every household can move by their own rules, but they need to be vocalized, verbalized, and agreed upon.
Yes.
And I think that we're gonna deal with this. We got rules that are private, and that we just assume that
we have internal rules that we assume that our partner knows.
So number one,
Wait.
Oh, you got something you want to add? Oh, you talking to?
Wait. You didn't let me tell about my side. They gotta have the reference.
I'm sorry.
He excited, y'all. Okay, so I was also raised in a single parent home, on and off. And I say on and off because my mom was married about 5 times.
Dang.
So I had several stepfathers, all of which had different personalities, different requirements, different expectations. So by the time she got to her last husband, me and my brother treated him trash because we was like, you ain't gonna be here long. She'll get tired of you too.
That was vetting him?
Oh yeah, we was telling him this to his face. Like,
that was them kind of kids.
Yeah, we was them kids. 5 times?
Get your kids.
By the 5th time, I was like, she don't know what she wants, so we need to make this decision for her.
He was referring to y'all in closed doors with her as get your kids.
No, he would refer to us like that openly. We already knew.
I heard it in the spirit. Get your kids. Man.
So, yes. At a very early... Oh, don't start. At a very early age, I had internally decided I want no parts of this. This clearly doesn't work. This is very dysfunctional because I had no references around me of a healthy marriage. And the closest thing to a healthy marriage was my grandmother and my grandfather. And my grandmother would try to run him ragged. And I was just like, he don't really seem happy though. Like, he doing all this stuff for her. She don't really seem like she appreciated like she should. So I'm just not gonna do this at all. So I remember making that decision, like, I'd rather just work and travel and just enjoy life. And if I want to bring somebody in, I will. And then when I want to get rid of them, I can, because I'm not committed to them in marriage.
Now, I don't really see anything wrong with that outside of my church lens, because in contrast to what you just said, it was an unspoken doctrine that if you don't get married, if you remain single, there's something wrong with you.
Oh, see, that's the other thing too. I lived in like 6 different states before I got to the 5th grade. So I had so many different vantage points of what this world was. Also, I wasn't at church every Sunday. That wasn't a thing. I mean, she would go through seasons where we were in church more than others. When we moved back to Oklahoma, that's when she started going consistently. So then it became like, okay, this is what we do on Sundays and Wednesdays. But I feel like it didn't really get in my foundation because in my formative years, we were moving. And I mean, like moving, like California, South Carolina, Texas, Kansas, like all over. So I've seen the North, I've seen the South, I've seen the East, I've seen the West.
Come on, man.
So I'm thankful for that because I was exposed to so many different ways to live that I'm not closed-minded when it comes to that. And I can understand different people's, view on life. But yeah, marriage was not a part of it for that reason.
I think the church piece that you mentioned, being unchurched,
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea how that would, it didn't even cross my mind
Right.
that would be a real decision,
Yeah.
you know, a dynamic changer,
Right.
that I was heavily in church and you
Yeah.
weren't. But I think
We
it's a,
don't even think to ask that though, because it's like we met each other. We literally met each other at church.
right.
So it's this assumption of, okay, you're in the same arena as me, so you should believe like me. Your beliefs should be aligned with me. But if you don't have that conversation about, but what is your history? How churched are you? What, how do you view God? Through what lens?
Mm.
Then you can fall out really easily. So, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. First question.
So let's do number one.
Yes.
These are conversations
Mm-hmm.
that speak to the upbringing that I was under and
Mm-hmm.
the upbringing that you were under. So if
Right.
if you're watching this as a couple or as a single individual, just take these different bullet points and comb through and be able to
Mm-hmm.
articulate
Yeah.
how these different points shaped who you are today or who you're
Mm-hmm.
not today.
Right.
And how did these specific points help mold
Mm-hmm.
your idealization or your thought process behind the subject?
Right.
So number one is gender roles. You wanna start?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So in my household growing up, there were a couple vantage points that I noticed. So my mother was a very independent woman, which I'll dive into that a little bit later.
Mm.
Um, so she would get married for the facade of my children have a father, we're a family. But inside of the house, behind closed doors, she was running the show. Like she was running the show. Like all the funds were coming into the account, she was controlling them. What happened, what didn't happen, like she was running the show. I never remember seeing a man in strength in a house,
Now,
which was new to me.
that point, when whatever phase of our marriage when
Yeah.
that came up,
Mm-hmm.
how did it come up? How did you deal with it?
Okay, so the first time it came up was our first argument,
Oh,
which y'all, I know this is gonna sound real crazy. I know, but just ride with me because y'all need the you need the transparency to understand how it can show up. So John came to me to have a conversation and he said, I'm gonna pay all the bills with my check. I just need you to buy groceries with your check. And I went through the roof. Y'all, like Hancock. I went off and he was looking like, I said, how you gonna tell me what to do with my money? You know my daddy. And that was
it turned from Cosby Show to Roseanne.
yes, he was looking like, I thought that was a good idea, which it really was a good idea. He just didn't know in that moment that was something that had triggered me because I had never had a man tell me what I had to do.
Mm.
My father was absent. Um, and all the other men, they were what do you call them? They were
Simps.
placeholders.
Oh, okay.
Oh dang, I wasn't gonna be that deep.
I know. Could think of another one.
They went to work, they came home, they sat in a chair, they didn't bother anything, or they were overly dysfunctional.
Castrated.
Like want to yell and scream all the time with my mom, but still didn't have any like relationship with me as a child growing up. It was never a conversation like this is what a man should do for you, should not do for you. This is how a man should show up in a home. Like none of them. I mean, one of my stepdads had an alcohol problem. The other one had an anger problem.
Lord, I hope they ain't watch.
Oh, I don't care because it's the reality. I'll stand on business. Your story. Yeah, exactly. Others were like just silent. I'm like, oh, you just here for my mom. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. So
your mother sure does care about your son.
See how he's showing y'all how many movies he be watching.
So,
what about you?
The gender roles, it was a single parent home, but before my like kind of similar to your mom, she just had a strong strength.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I'm gonna give you this is her speaking, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to hold it down. Mm-hmm. If you don't, I'm not gonna let the household go without or
right.
So if you're out in the streets or if you're coming home late or whatever, then I'm gonna do what need to be done because these are my kids, this is my son.
Right.
and somebody's got to come through it. So I think that these individuals, the females and the males, that there was just a lot of survival happening
Yeah.
because we're dealing with undeveloped, even us, we were undeveloped.
Right.
Like this stuff that we know now in 2025 and beyond, this was not common knowledge back then. And
Yeah.
so even though we speak concerning our parents and those who were around us in our upbringing, very bluntly and very surely, there is a understood between us. And so we want to communicate it to y'all that there's just an understanding of they did the best that they could.
Absolutely. My mom totally loved me and she did the best she knew, but she was living by rules that were given to her by her mom, honestly.
And the rules change, like society, culture, things shift, and we change with culture. And so that's why it is so important for you to have these conversations on who does what, how do you believe?
Yeah.
And so instead of talking about positions and Netflix and chilling and bumping ugly and knocking boots and getting the uchiwali, we really need, even in our, we need to be having serious conversations and put that phone down and really having the needed conversation over dinner, before making love, after making love, in that bubble bath, wherever, because what you don't deal with grows.
Absolutely.
What you don't deal with grows. So strong gender roles, I really didn't see that dynamic established because it was short lived. And by the time I got old enough to recognize it, it was just.
You know, something else that I noticed that I have purposely like gone opposite of. So my mom was very nurturing to us, but I never saw her be nurturing to any of her husbands. Like she hated PDA. It was like, okay, not in public. Like I've seen her do this more than I've seen her like embrace. So PDA was so weird to me when we first got married. I'm like, why is he doing this? Okay, I know how you feel about me, but the world don't gotta know. Like it was just very abnormal. And what's crazy is I wanted it, but I just didn't know how to receive it because I'm like, I ain't never seen nobody like.
She's playing hard to get.
Okay.
So sometimes you just gotta, love an individual and create a safe environment for them to let their hair down, to be. My therapist said today that one of her missions was to reintroduce people to the version that they were before their pain.
Oof.
That's in my heart. So I think that we have identified ourselves post-traumatic experience.
Right.
And many of us, even married, really don't know who the real us is before pain because it started so early.
Yeah.
So a lot of the personality types that we have claimed that this is who I am, it might just be hurt and defense.
Okay.
But now my wife is a lover, like to the T. It's just the psalmist declared, "Ain't no woman like the one I got. No one can do me better." But so glad that you were able to grow through that because that woman who was resistant is not who you really were.
Right.
And it felt like rejection to me. It felt like if you don't want it, then what do I give it? What do I do with it? So it really had me feeling some type of way before I understood it has nothing to do with me. And I think that a lot of couples get stuck there with taking it personal.
Right.
Not understanding that this person is doing what they're doing, not necessarily that it makes it right, but just understanding that this person had a history before you met them. You might not be helping that history.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, nevertheless. Okay, so gender roles. I'm going to tell y'all this. I met a young lady who I used to work with that was a feminist. And she was, what was Prince? What's that word? Androgynous to the T. I mean, I was trying to figure out. So we're working together and I'm asking her questions because I really want to know. I'm curious. I have no judgment for anybody. I want to know people's story. And so I want the information. And so we started dialoguing and I wanted to know just what her story was. And I wanted to know if she, what her belief system was regarding relationships, most importantly. So we're talking. And so she said that I was asking her about gender roles. And I was saying, you being androgynous, and are you saying, what's your, tell me your business. So she was like, I'm what did she say? She was pansexual. So she said, my desire is to be with a woman. So I said, tell me how those dynamics work. I'm writing, I'm getting ready to write a book. And I want to know what your take on it is from a woman who is considered a feminist, androgynous feminist. Can you see the picture? So I say, who shovels the snow? Like if you're with a man, who shovels the snow? She says, well, whoever has the time in their schedule to get their ass out there and shovel. Okay. So it's all right. Well, who mows the grass? Well, whoever doesn't have the allergies. If she or he has allergies, then I'll do it, or vice versa. Whoever likes to be out and I can dig it. So I said, I got one for you. I think I stumped you. I think I got you. She said, what? I said, you and your man are laying in the bed at night, and there is a breaking glass in the back door of your house. Who gets up and goes to see what it is? She said, whoever heard it first. I said, for real? She said, yeah. So I said to Momo, I said, let's say you're at a restaurant and you're without him. And I'm trying to figure out if she really is with the equality, or she's just and so talking, far just talking. And so far she's holding that. She with it. I said, if you're at a restaurant and a man is mishandling you, he's kind of getting with you and he's, disrespecting you. I said, are you going to call your husband? She said, I most certainly am. I said, nah, I got you. It ain't, you ain't with it. I said, I said, okay. And what are you going to say to him when you call your husband? She said, I'm going to say, she said, you better get your ass here in 15 minutes, or if not, this motherfucker's going to get it. I said, I can't remember what her name was. She said, yeah, I'm handling business. Like, you got 15 minutes. I said, you really with the smoke. So I asked her, how did you come to this conclusion? Were you raised like this? Was your household set up like this? She said, my father was, she said, I had a blended family. My mother married a man who was sick, and he wasn't able to do the typical male gender role behaviors. He couldn't shovel snow. He couldn't cut grass. He couldn't fix stuff. So the blended family, my sisters and I and my brothers, we, like the Brady Bunch, she said, we shared responsibility. So I didn't grow up in a household that had gender roles. Whoever could do it, whoever was there, just needed to do it. And she said, and that is why I believe what I believe today, that if you're an able-bodied person, you need to get up and do it.
Well,
I was like, how you going?
You can't argue with that.
You can't say nothing to that. He just is. So just make sure that whatever belief system that you're standing on, you know the origin of it, and it's working.
Yeah.
Because if it ain't working,
then you got to reevaluate it. If you want the relationship that you are currently in to work, you're going to have to reevaluate it if it's not working.
It's not working. Although young people say it ain't serving. It's given, you don't want to be here. Okay, do number two.
Number two, finances. How was money handled in your household?
Again, we're going to be poor examples for giving context for, but just for conversation's sake, sometimes there's a saver and sometimes there's a spender. Sometimes there's a person who emotionally spends, and sometimes there's a person who really is about that life with money. That may not be the man, that may not be the woman. So if there's any bias concerning who should be making the final decisions, if you believe that the man should and you suck at handling money, you should not be the person that's handling the, you know what I'm saying? So if both of you have a financial understanding or knowledge base,
strength in finances, that's one thing. But if one person is stronger than the other, it just makes sense to go with the person is.
There you go. Now that might be an argument that has been, money is one of the top 3 issues that
money, sex, and communication
really destroy relationships. And so just credit. I found out about credit late. It was not discussed in the household that I grew up in.
Neither was it discussed in
so when we got together, we had no context concerning financial education, credit scores, and just all of that. So
the top 3 things that destroy relationships were never talked about in my household growing up.
Okay, so let me hit you with this one. Let's do sex. Sexuality.
Okay. No, just like go ahead.
I remember wanting to have the conversation about sexuality
Mhm.
so bad that when they offered it in 7th grade in middle school sex ed, I'm sitting on the front row. I got my no
Pen and
other
paper.
class
Like
math.
a nerd. Pen and paper.
I'm sitting in the, I'm ready.
What'd you say again,
You
Miss
said,
Roberts?
yeah,
Can you repeat that?
slow down. You're saying it too fast. You said that I'm trying to get all the, I'm sitting in the front. She's Jonathan, you're very, I'm in it because I can't get nobody to have a conversation with me. And I
At
need to know
home.
how do you put, she had a banana, putting that condom on that banana. And I'm trying to figure out how do you do it? Like, what's up? Like, so anyway, I was eager to be in sex ed class. So sexuality, even though it was not discussed,
It was something you were curious
it was something I
about.
was curious about. So I brought that curiosity to the relationship and was open with it. Your upbringing or understanding of sexuality was what when we got married? Your feelings about
I feel like my feelings about it were negative, but it's just because I was introduced to sexuality through abuse. So conversation was never had about sexuality. I had to figure it out on my own. But it wasn't like positive. It wasn't something I was curious about. It was like, ugh. So
and there are people who grow up in like religious settings
yeah.
that I know more.
We also believed differently on the topic of sexuality.
Well, that's true too.
Because you believed that you needed to wait till marriage, and I was never taught that, so I didn't believe that.
But taught that?
But he didn't know that I didn't believe that. No,
man, listen. I didn't know. Had I known,
yeah, he didn't know.
We would have been.
And he was just so pure and honorable. I was just like, "Oh, you really so cute."
That was all
like
front.
people.
I didn't want to lose. I thought I was gonna lose my anointing. That's the only reason why.
But you know what?
Stupid.
It really blessed me though, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why I'm as open with you as I am, because it was like you didn't lead out with that. So it was like I couldn't classify you as all the other men because you didn't lead out with that.
All right.
So I know you say if you would have known, it would have been a whole different story, but it needed to be the story that it was.
All things work together.
Yeah.
But
you were granted a key because of your.
All right. See what the devil meant for you. So people's experience. Can I say this last thing we move to these? Maybe we only do 4. When you find a person that really just does that thing, they're well versed in the bed. For some couples, this becomes a problem. Some people are like, I don't care. Somebody taught them. All them tips and them tricks, and when they pop that thing and flip that thing, and you're like, man, how you? They did not come out of the womb doing that. They had a subject that they practiced on, or someone did it to them. It's a hand me down, like it's like the dollar bill. It come out of my wallet.
It's a hand me down.
It is.
Everything. Okay, let me throw some grace out here.
Okay, you can practice on who you with.
Everything is not a hand-me-down. If you are honest and vulnerable, there are tons of things that you can explore and discover together. But
y'all know what I'm talking about.
If you get with somebody who got experience and they knock your socks off,
okay, that's all I'm saying.
And you in love with it, and that's why you want to stay with them. You can't get in a relationship and then browbeat them because
they got a history.
Because they list is long. Because you got with them for a reason. Just saying.
Like a door handle. Everybody in the city had a turn.
That's rough.
It is what it is. So yeah.
Shots fired.
There are some things that you can learn on your own.
Yeah.
But you can't teach nobody how to swim unless you throw them in that water. I'm just telling you, they got to have something to practice on. I'm just all the teachers. There's a bank in Tulsa called Tulsa Teachers. See. You need help. Okay. Let's. Okay. This is a good one. Discipline and parenting styles. For those of you who have children, blended families, one child, your first child, Mackenzie Leanne. How did your upbringing shape how you treated her? Were you a helicopter parent? Were you?
I think several things contributed to it though, because we lost our first child, so I was overly protective with Mackenzie. Sure. So I feel like that made me a helicopter mom. I really had to get delivered from that, y'all. But I also like just wanted to safeguard her from all of the things that harmed me growing up. And I think because of that, I really robbed her of some experiences that she could have had young. Because I was like, "Oh, I got you, girl."
Mm-hmm.
Like I jokingly say, even to today, to my kids, like, "Did somebody do something? I'll fight kids."
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I want them to know I got their back. Because I feel like I wasn't supported in that way growing up.
Or put on a little kid costume and go to the school.
Well, I mean, they know I'm not gonna fight no kid, but they know like if something is going on, I got your back. I'm about to show up. We're gonna figure out what's going on. We're gonna get to the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm. Hang
So
him up behind like who hanger this um so there was an incident that we had with our son a couple of years ago. Now, Mackenzie, she said what she said about Mackenzie. It is true to the T.
Mhm.
Now, it's not so much now. He's kind of, he didn't kind of grew you up. But little John, the twin, her twin, little redhead twin, they got
There
a
you go.
bond, boy. And so this goes to the point of parenting styles and
Mhm.
discipline. He would do things during that time, and I would get on to him. Oh, I got a funny story to tell y'all. And she would defend him.
Mhm.
I would reprimand him, and she would submit, not after it was over, in
Right.
the moment. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh, hell no, you ain't listen. So instead of, this is a little version of mature of me, so a little bit
Mhm.
toxic in it. I said, you know what? If you want to keep interrupting me and interfering with my boy, then I'm going to let you be in charge of what he does. We'll
Right.
just give you. And he did a couple of things. And one day he started getting with it after he found out that I wasn't going to interject. And I just let him go at it. He was talking back, and boy, I can't about it. She got them together. So I'm laying. Remember that scene on five? Oh, not five. Right, on Lean on Me, when they had fired Mr. Clark and they was protesting outside
And
the
he
school.
laying in the jail
And
with
he
his
laying in the
arms
jail.
crossed behind his back.
I was laying in that day with my feet propped up, and I said, "It looks like the rooster has come home to
Oh
roost."
my God! Here
And
you
she
go.
came in the room and said, "How come you're?" I said, "Because this is my time now."
He felt all his
Oh yeah,
Cheerios that
this is
day.
what I did. I got ready for that. I had that powder on my hands, and when she came in the room, I came in like LeBron James. I'm ready now. Said it's my time now, and I said 3 months ago, when I tried to get on him about this room, tried to get on him about talking back to you, you kept on sparing him.
This is true. This is true.
So,
but the root of that was I was never used to a man having a voice in the home. So it just sounded so aggressive and so strong. And so I'm like, man, that's hard. That's harsh. Not knowing that it takes the balance of both to raise a child healthy.
So that incident, although it was funny, and I was really
it was not funny to me, y'all, but it was funny to him. I was
cracking.
He felt so vindicated in that moment, like, oh,
sometimes you just got to take your hands off and let the Lord fight your battle. His battle is not that. But for real, what was so beautiful about that conversation is that you really, like you articulated, you regulated and articulated and went down through some of the work that you had done on why you felt that way. And she was able to like let me know, listen, even though I might feel that thing moving when you're getting onto him, I know that you want what's best for him.
Right.
And she asked me, she said, I just really need you to help me when you see me doing that, because I want to be aware of it.
Right.
Because I don't want to ever make you feel like you cannot raise your son, because he is yours. And she said, I've never been a man before, and so I don't know what he needs. And so just help me. Absolutely. And that really, like, so I got to take all my powder back, because that really, I really felt compassion, and I couldn't be mad. And we had a moment because it really just shined light on the fact of we're not each other's enemy. But I was ready to bear down. I was prepared. Sometimes you got to be prepared. So let me tell you this, and we'll do one more and then we're done. You're going to think this is funny. Let's see if he watches. Don't tell him. Let's see if he watches the episode. So her and I are in the front seat. We're on a date night with my brother and his wife, and they're having the same problem that we were having. And he's getting on his son, and the wife is like, "You're too hard on him." And now, so he says something that is so funny to me. I had to pull the car over because I almost pissed myself. You ever started laughing somewhere when you start coughing and you start crying?
No.
Yes. I have. He says
he does often. You really get tickled to your core.
It's just it's a medicine.
It is.
Sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Okay, he said,
leave me alone. I'm using this voice. Y'all gonna know what I'm talking about. He said, leave me alone.
God.
You didn't grow up with a dad, so you don't know how a dad is supposed to raise a son because you've never seen it. Leave me and my boy alone. I said, I can't die.
You see how he's laughing? And he the one driving the car. And he laughing like this. Like this right here.
I cried. I lost my mind.
Don't ever try to have a serious conversation around him if you don't want him to laugh, because he might laugh.
It was so funny because it was true. I mean, I'm not saying that a woman can't, you understand what I'm saying? But so she didn't grow. I was looking at my like, she didn't grow with it. That like, how do you know? Like, I was like, and she didn't have a response. I was like, damn, I wonder what you gonna say. Yeah, the end speaks for itself of that, but the fact remains, like, I was like, if you've never seen it, and this doesn't go for that example, but if you don't have proof of concept, I do believe that love is love, and that when a child comes out of your womb, and et cetera, et cetera. But there are just some things that you know about womanhood that when you're dealing with Mag, I'm gonna let women have that, like the menstrual cycle, and like there's some stuff that just women need to talk about, and vice versa. And I think that like bitterness and like child support and divorce and depending on what you've seen, like you say, what you saw your mom do to these men, and vice what I've seen happen with my father and my mother, it really, and it spoke to me. Man, she trying to, she's trying to come in on, she trying to tell you. So our traumas speak. Right. And it is so important. I love what you did because I didn't have enough healing in that moment. I was triggered too. To really say, like, this is why I'm responding this way. Right. Can you tell the person that you're with, this is how you know there's some healthiness in it? When you can verbally say, this is why I'm responding this way in a clear, concise way where that person can understand, okay, I see. Now what we going to do? Yeah. And help me if you see it.
Right. That was my thing. I know I don't have a reference, so I'm open. I'm not trying to like step on your toes, but my heart is crying. Why he crying? Like, oh, but then you gotta make him cry.
Yeah, and I think the response, y'all can debate whether it was over the top or not. It was funny though. Oh God, I've never heard. I thought about that the other. I told my coworker, he was like, "Well," but his wife be interfering with it.
He agreeing with you because he currently going through it. But yeah.
Okay, let's do one more.
Yes. Ooh.
Which one you want? Which one you want? Let's do submission and leadership. Okay. Who ran it? Who ran it? When you were coming up.
I don't feel like submission was a topic of discussion at all. Yeah, it was like, what? I mean, like, I was taught have a man, but don't need a man, have money put to the side. Like, it just was so many, like, undercutting processes that were taught to me that it was just like.
And that came out of what?
Why are y'all with them? That's what I always thought about.
How did these women get to the philosophy?
It was all birthed out of pain.
Say that again.
It was all birthed out of pain. And I'm clear on that. But in real time, I've always been like a critical thinker. So I'm saying, why are you teaching me that? It's not working for you. That would always be the question in my back of my mind. Okay, you're telling me to do this. You're implying, hey, you should just have this stash to the side. And I'm thinking, why would I be with somebody that I can't be transparent with? That's why I just didn't think it worked. I'm like, the math is not mathing. You want to be with this person, but you don't want to be with this person, but you want to be with this person. And we never had conversations about sex. Because as an adult, I'm like, oh, you just wanted to jump off. And you felt shame and embarrassment about just having somebody come through. So you was like, I need to get married.
Did church play any involvement in this dynamic, or these are just...
So I feel like it did, but I feel like they weren't even aware of it. So my great-grandfather was a pastor. So, the requirement back then, because I did say my great-grandfather. So my grandmother, the expectation was that she needed to be married, which I know she then passed that down to my mom. And my grandmother was the oldest. So the shame, the embarrassment, the ridicule that she experienced, she then just poured that full cup into my mom, which was her only girl.
Wow. So can y'all imagine the tension that we had from me growing up with my history of, I thought that, now, even though my father wasn't in the home, I think that his absence really let me come up with my own conclusion based on my pain with women. That a man definitely is not taking no bull. Like, he ain't put.
I was overly independent and you were overly chauvinist.
Can you imagine the
We
fights?
both required a lot of healing.
So the fact that we doing this vlog and love each other like is a miracle within itself, because these two histories don't mix. But
the unhealed version of us didn't mix.
No.
But once we got healed, we were like, oh, we are very compatible.
I don't know. It is only by his grace. So
grace, mercy, and good sex kept us together.
I can't hear nobody.
We could get healed emotionally. It's just the truth.
Sometimes it's to hold you over. Sometimes you just need a snack.
I do not advise letting those be the only things that hold you together, but it is the truth for our story, okay?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, if you want it, like we talked about this one episode, like if you're a pilot and the plane is going down, you gotta call somebody who knows a little bit more. But just remember that your household may not look like the household that you grew up in or your friend's household. And as long as, I talked to someone today and they said their relationship is not on social media. Yeah. They went through a storm stage and made it through and they're happily married. And people often ask, like, hey, are y'all still married? And they say, yeah, we still married, but it's just not online. It's just, it's none of y'all business. Okay. So I was like, but everybody's relationship, it can be different. It can have its nuances. Everybody's relationship is going to be different. All right. I mean, just period. So we're in a comparative society, and we're really trying to look at, but just pull from. So we've pulled from. We're both modern and traditional. We've borrowed from different experiences, etc., to make what we have custom made. So you'll never be able to look at somebody's couple and say, I want that. If you look at a couple from the 60s or 40s, whatever time period that was, and women couldn't vote. So, okay, last point. There was this woman that was doing an interview, and she was saying that a lot of these couples who stayed together 40 and 50 years, the husband had a family on the side. And it was known and it was understood. What's that song? The Cleanup Woman? Barbara and Shirley. That was an understood dynamic. What's that song by M2? Me and You. What we gonna do? Anyway, these old school songs, if you really listen to the lyrics, it was a situationship. And because these are one income households, women didn't have the rights that they do today, wasn't getting paid what they get paid today. You had to stay in it. Unless you wanted to mess up your whole community and start from the bottom. But when you're in a hell situation, you'll take whatever risk it takes to get out of this. So women today, especially, like, are in a movement and in a time where they're saying, we're not putting up with the bull. If it's oppressive, if I can't say what I think, like, I'm not nobody's. So we made it. We made it. We got some more growing to do, please understand, but you was a fighter. Yeah, we had some. So, anything you want to say before we finish? You got something you want to add? Yeah, I'm going to say a couple of things. Okay. No, you can say it. Let's do it over. I do want to just agree with what you said. Like, every relationship is going to be custom, and those are conversations that you have to have. And that may change along the way. So there may be a season where you're doing 80% of the work and I'm only doing 20. And then there may be a season where I'm doing 80% and you're doing 20.
But whatever works for you guys and that you agree
That's
on,
good.
that's what you have to stick with. It doesn't matter what society is trying to push on you. Whatever works for you and your spouse, as long as you guys are in agreement and okay with it, it's okay. Just do that. Here's my other little I'm gonna hop on my bandwagon real quick. Yeah, I
You
was
got
doing good
something
today.
else? All right.
Yeah, I was
Come on.
doing good, but I'm gonna jump on it.
I'm looking for it.
I feel like something that has really plagued us as women is this stance of I'm an independent woman. He need to just understand. But have you ever looked up the definition of independent? Like, you don't need to be in a relationship if you're an independent woman. That means you want to be alone, you want to run it, you want to be in charge of everything, which you have the right to do that. But inside of a relationship, there is so much compromise that has to take place that it may not be for you. And if that is your reality, that is okay. But don't subject somebody else to unnecessary rejection and pain because you want to be in charge and you're not willing to compromise.
I'm not taking that. I'm not.
I
But
love
I agree.
y'all.
Yeah, that's good. So these conversations really they're needed.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have them on the front end,
Yeah.
you don't have them on the back end.
Right.
But trust and believe
Yeah.
if it is going to work, if you guys are going to stick it out,
Mm-hmm.
they will be had.
Yeah,
They will be
absolutely.
had.
Absolutely.
There will be others. So thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. This has been good.
It is.
We probably got about 5 more. This has been good.
We might do a part two,
We
y'all.
might. Let's see how
Let
we
us
feel.
know if you want a part two.
Let's see how we feel. But as we say, as we conclude, always that marriage
For grown
is
folks.
for grown folks.